Okay, so hello and welcome to the After Credits podcast. This is our first regularly scheduled episode in a little while. This is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Part one's important here. It's in
Part
the
1 is
title.
important, yeah. Because Part 1 is, we've had a few Part 1s recently.
Yeah.
And I think in general I'm happier with this one ended up than the other one.
Yep.
Put it that way.
Like,
Spoiler? I reckon we just go spoilers, right?
yeah, I think so.
Fuck spoiler free. Well, very quick spoiler free.
It's
I really
good.
like the film. I thought it was very good. Go see the film and go see it on. I don't necessarily think you need to see it on IMAX. I saw it at a Cineworld IMAX.
I seen
I don't
a
think
regular
it's-
screen and I seen an iSense screen, and I honestly didn't feel much difference in either. So honestly,
Yeah.
just
So-
watch what you want, mate.
Find the biggest screen in your cinema that costs the least amount of money.
The thing is, like, IMAX is always going to be better to watch on. It's like, is it worth paying the extra amount to watch it?
Yes.
That's the thing, you know.
That's a good way of putting it. If you can get a cheap IMAX ticket, of course go for IMAX. If not, I don't think it's
Yeah,
necessary.
you're not missing too much out. Like, there's only certain scenes that are going to be like sick on IMAX. So
Yes. So spoiler free, I'd give this probably. I'm sitting at probably like 8.5, 9.
yeah, I'm
This is
up
a very
there.
solid-
I'm up
this is a
there
solid
too.
film.
I think I'm comfortably at an 8.5, like right there. I think that's kind of
And
where I'm at.
something to keep in mind as well, if you're, well, you will be unaware. I'm not the biggest fan of the Mission Impossible films. Not that I don't like them. I just haven't really kept up with them all that much. So that's where I'm sitting.
And have you
I'm
seen
sitting
all of
pretty
them?
high at this. What's that?
Have you seen all?
Oh,
of
I think I've seen all of them at some point.
them? Right.
But I don't think I've ever sat down and watched a Mission Impossible film. It's always been when someone else has been watching it. I've just kind of sat down and watched whatever was on.
Because I'm the complete opposite, where I've only seen Fallout, which is the last one.
Right.
So like I know
So-
nothing
Regardless,
based on that.
so if you're a huge fan of the series, go see it. If you're not, go see it.
Yeah.
That's where we're sitting.
Pretty,
It's a solid
pretty
film.
much, and that's
Solid
you know
film.
what that's a good freaking review. I think if
Yeah.
those two different kinds of people say it's a good film, then I think you're thinking of something.
100%. Well, thank you for joining us, spoiler free, but it's time to fuck off. We are on spoilers now. So, I guess, what do you want to talk about, Brandon? We're not gonna. I think we just briefly discussed before we started filming that we might not follow the exact timeline of the film. We're just gonna talk about scenes we like as we go. So this might be a bit more jumbled. It might not be, but it might be. So
I
keep that in mind.
guess I want to bring up. I don't want to start off at negative, but I think I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What's your thoughts of AI being a big thing on this in this movie? Because I was not expecting it at all. Like when they brought in AI, I was like, "Oh, this seems like way too current to like be a thing." Like because this was obviously filmed a wee while ago, and then we've got like ChatGPT and stuff like taking over. I wasn't expecting like AI to be like the big villain or big super
Well,
weapon here.
Spoilers for Indy 5 if you haven't seen that. Can't recommend that, so don't go see
Yeah,
that.
don't watch that.
but-
This is an action adventure film you should watch.
Yeah, exactly. This, like, Indy 5 will put you to sleep. This will wake you up. This is your alarm clock from Indy 5. This is fuck Indy 5. That review's up. Not up yet, but up and coming.
Not even filmed yet at this point. Like,
Not even filmed, but you can bet my ass I'm gonna go fucking ham on that. Anyway, back onto Mission Impossible. I was surprised. The only reason I brought up Indy 5 was because in Indy 5, spoilers, at the very beginning of the film, they bring up the concept of time fissures. Because time travel is in Indiana Jones 5, and that's a fucking ridiculously dumb idea, especially after people didn't like aliens. That's all I'll say about Indy 5. Mission Impossible, I kind of got the same vibe at the start of the film where I was like, really? Like, I didn't know Mission Impossible was like that kind of film. Where it was a bit like out of left field, where I was like, really, time fissures? Like, really, we're going AI in a spy film? Like, damn. I thought that would be like some sort of sci-fi kind of. I get this series has played with
technology.
and again, this is not actually a complaint because I like that concept and I'm totally on board
And they
with it.
did it well.
But but just my opinion at the beginning when it first came up, I was like, shit, okay. I didn't expect that, but like, okay. And then they did it well. So I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. So I was kind of a bit taken aback by it to begin with, but on board, totally, yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it as well because again, I've not seen other films except Fallout, so I don't know what kind of stuff they play around with. So when they introduced it, I was like, okay, I'll run with it. Um, I am a bit sick of AI, but they did it really well in this film. I thought, where they have to challenge Ethan's like way of thinking, because like they even say it constantly, like you have to think like an AI. You can't think like a human because it's already predicted that. You know what I mean? So it's like you need to like it's done really well, and yeah, no, I was a big fan. I even like the setup as well, how it tricks the Navy people.
That was yeah, I really liked that.
That was good. That was good.
I do think. Also, apparently, this is not me shitting on the Russians, but like, apparently they're just. I read a story today about this during the just prior to the First World War, where the Russians were basically just incompetent buffoons in their boats, and they like shot their own boats. This is just prior to the Russo-Japanese War. They're just completely fucking incompetent, and I didn't know that going into the film. But like after, it's quite funny. I don't know if that's just like they're just they happen to be the enemies in this one, but it's not like there's not precedents for the Russians being total fucking dimwits. Obviously they got tricked, so it's not too bad. But like, it's funny. But I thought the intro was great, like because I think we've talked about the film a little bit before the film in this episode, and even before I went and seen the film, Brendan said to me that he'd found the first 20 minutes a bit slow, and after that it really ramped up. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know what
First.
it was. Maybe it's just 'cause I had long travel to get there, and I was just a bit tired, and there wasn't too much going on at the start that was exciting me. Like the submarine scene was fine. It felt very, I don't know. It felt very like it didn't feel. What's the word? I don't know. It didn't feel important, or maybe not important, but just it
Engaging.
it wasn't engaging until they blew themselves up, and I was like, oh wait, what? And the whole thing with Ethan getting his freaking fast food like delivery, that's what kind of reminded me of, at least, or at least that's definitely what they were playing on, like oh, it's his freaking Just Eat getting delivered, you know, like because he had the bag and everything, right? Like he dropped that off, because it felt like it was supposed to be this cool intro, but I was just like, okay, whatever. To do that whole thing. For me, it doesn't pick up till the airport scene, and then from there, it freaking it's on a high, like the whole way after that.
And you feel the same way about that on a second watch?
A little bit of the same, but not as much because at least I knew that it was going to pick up going in. Especially in the sort of office scene with all like the freaking top guys just talking about government stuff. It's very dialogue heavy, and even a second time watching, I'm just like, right, let's just freaking get to the point here. Let's just like, let's get this moving. I know we need to set up this scene, and I think it's fine to do so. Not that I don't even think they do it wrong either. It's just for me, it's not engaging movie making, especially if you're going into a film like Mission Impossible, where you're expecting like action and stuff. They give action though, because I think every action piece essentially, bar one, is phenomenal in this film. But yeah, it was just a bit slow. And again, that might just be because I was tired on the way down to get there as well. And then the second time watching, I've already seen it, and I'm like, right, I just want to get to the good stuff. So, but yeah, besides that, not too bad.
I don't disagree, but I disagree. Like I completely understand your point, and I think it's a valid point. I didn't feel that way when I saw the film though. Because I do remember watching the submarine scene thinking, oh, Brennan said this was quite slow, and I actually thought the first 20 minutes was all going to be submarine stuff, and that's why you thought it was slow, but it's kind of, they do dwell on it a little, but obviously they kind of clean their hands with it in the first kind of 10 minutes, right? Like 5-10 minutes. It's not that long a scene, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I really like the submarine stuff. I really liked the intro actually, and I thought they kind of set up what this film was gonna be quite well in the beginning. Like that scene with the like the heads of security and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
They like you get the reveal, like you get like the mask pull offs and all that kind of stuff, and you get like the comedy and stuff like that. I thought they set up like the tone of the film quite well, and the comedy, because this film was actually more comedic than I thought it was going to be in general.
Yeah.
But it's comedic in the sense of I know that my dad's gonna laugh at those jokes, and I know my gran can laugh at those jokes, rather than like, oh, that was actually like modern funny,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
So I think maybe this humor might, cause it seems to be a bit aimed at older generations. Maybe people will grow into that humor when we
And
become like
it's
that.
the type of humor
So
that doesn't rely on like current media and current references and stuff. It's
that was
just
kind of my point.
yeah,
Is that I think that the comedy might age a bit better than some more kind of contemporary things
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a solid intro. I really like the submarine stuff. I even just like the kind of attention to detail in the background as well, because I was kind of picking stuff out where like orthodox icons and stuff in the background of the submarines, and I was like, oh, nice little touches of detail in submarine there. But no, yeah, I really liked it, and I like the idea. I like the kind of like, oh, what the fuck? Like, where did that submarine just go? And then like they twig that it's coming back and hitting themselves. I thought that was really good, and I kind of like the kind of the brutality of it a little bit as well, where once the submarine blows up, like there's bodies like hitting the bottom of the ice and stuff.
Mm.
I did like that because like you wouldn't need to do that if you were aiming like a lower rating for the film. Like I don't know what the rating for the film was. Was it a 12 or a 15
It was a bit well
in the UK?
PG first.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. Like you say, I like the little intro, and I just like that they're like Tom Cruise just being Tom Cruise, man. Like we'd spoken a little bit about this. Is that honestly, I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan. Like I haven't watched a lot of the Mission Impossible films. Like knowingly sat down and watched them. I like the first Top Gun. I like the second one a lot better. But I wouldn't say I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. But like, man, the man knows how to make an action film, and he knows how to be in an action film.
Yeah, he's. I'm kind of on board with you. He's not my favorite actor by any means, but he's a freaking movie star though.
Even when he's pushing 60,
you know,
he's pushing 60. Like he's
crazy.
61 now, I think, right?
Crazy.
So like, fair enough. You can say like, and to be honest, this will be in our Crystal Skull episode, but I think Harrison Ford's okay in Crystal Skull, right? And he's about 60 in that film, I think, just over 60. Now Tom Cruise is 61 as well, so like, maybe 60's an okay time for an action film. Like, it can be done, yeah. So I think I don't have strong opinions on Tom Cruise one way or another, but man knows how to be in a film in the 2020s. Like, but yeah, I think I'd agree that the film definitely picks up when you hit the airport. It becomes what the rest of the film is going to be at that point.
It's because like that's when you get into like the spy stuff and all that. You know, like
Yeah.
that's when it's like okay, we've got our fun gadgets and stuff. You know, you got Simon Pegg and freaking what's the other character's name? Luther and Benji. Like those two, I love. Like they got some really good banter.
I was gonna say I really like the scene where they twig that there's a bomb in the airport, and they're like, "Oh shit, should we tell Ethan?" And they're like, "No, don't tell him." And then he's like, "Why didn't you guys tell me there's a fucking nuke in the airport?" And he's like, we didn't want to bother you." It's really good.
he's like, guys, nuke is the #1 priority. Like, I should be aware. How long have we got? 20 seconds. 20 Like, it's good. Yeah, a lot happens at the airport. We get freaking our favorite girl, Haley Atwell, playing Grace. Fantastic throughout the whole film, I thought. Honestly forgot she was even in the film when I was watching it. As in, like, I didn't realise she was even in the film, Haley Atwell. Or I was aware, but I totally forgot. And then I watched the film. I saw her in the film, and I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, she's in this film."
Thing is, as well, I think a general point on her is, again, not the biggest fan of Haley Atwell. I haven't seen a lot of Haley Atwell films. I've liked her what she's been in, but after seeing this, man, what the fuck are you doing with Haley Atwell? You've been wasting her for like 20 fucking years, man.
Crazy.
Like,
man.
what the hell? Yeah, like Bro, I can't believe they killed her in fucking Multiverse of Madness now. I'm like, mate, just bring her in the MCU. I'd rather have her than fucking Falcon.
yeah.
Honestly, like, she's great. She was really great in this film.
She's so good. Great, like, just great comedy, great action, just great acting.
Is there anyone you don't think is great in the film?
I think most people kind of smashed it, to be honest. Like, I can't think of anyone that, like, nobody took me out of the scene. There was never a person like that. I'll get to some people that I thought would, but I actually really loved them. and that's the police characters. Not police, but like the two guys that were like chasing him the whole film
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
were working for the British government. Um, you know what I'm talking about, like the guy with the grey hair.
They were American, wasn't it?
The American, sorry, I'm getting confused. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, they were American. Yeah, like I thought those two were going to be so annoying. I thought they were going to be the typical characters. You're like, oh my god, they're back, but they were actually so funny throughout. Just like constantly chasing after them. Like I freaking loved it. The sticking to the airport. Yeah, it all just kicks off. I love even just like the tension and stuff. But like for me, it was just the gadgets because again, I'm not used to this franchise, so I don't even know what they've used it for except like the masks because I know that's a big thing in this franchise, the disguising and stuff.
Right.
But I like the bit where they're the what would you call them, like the Secret Service or something? Like I don't know what you call them. The guys that are chasing them. They're looking through the cameras like, oh, he's there. He's at like section B or whatever, and it's like they've changed the camera to make it look
They've
like
done like
someone
a
else.
deep fake,
It's
right?
so
Yeah.
good. But so well done. Again, it's just stuff like that I like. Even like little gadgets of him wearing the sunglasses so you can track the key, like stuff like that. It's like nice little fun gadgets. We were talking about a film recently that lacked that. I can't remember what film that was though. But anyway, yeah, just the whole part, and then they bump into Grace, and then they two instantly just click. Great chemistry. Yeah, freaking great. So you got Simon Pegg going downstairs. You get the bomb.
Yeah. Again, I think the reason that I like these characters a lot as well, and I like how they come together, is because they have their very specific niche, which is a trope of like the heist spy genre,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like you have people with very specific skills, and that's the only skills they operate on.
And it works for a reason. There's a reason why that works.
Obviously, Ethan Hunt is a bit different, where he can kind of do a little bit of everything, but he's definitely not as good at Benji at like certain things, right? And he's not good at Luther. Like Luther's his guy in the chair sort of thing.
But like Ethan's like the on the field agent. Like he's like
Yeah, exactly.
He's the one that gets his hands
But
dirty.
the part I really like specifically about Haley Atwell is that she's kind of in the game for herself, but as soon as she has to deal with like higher consequences, she's completely out of depth.
Yeah,
Like she can operate, like she can do stuff. Like obviously, like she does a lot of the driving in some of the good car chase scenes and stuff like that. And she's capable in terms of like she knows when to pick her opportunities to get what she wants. But she also knows she's completely out of depth, and she'll die if she's not near Tom Cruise at least some of the time, right? When it's important. And I really like that, where it was like I feel like that's kind of some of the stuff that's been missing recently in like some other cinema properties. Is like people just tend to be a bit omniscient, right? Where they're just like, oh, I know everything I need to know for the story to work. Whereas here it was like, or I can do everything I need to do for the story to work, and I have no other flaws. And I'm not saying Mary Sue, but on the road to that. And
I don't think she is one because she's not good at stuff, but she's also amazing at what the stuff she should be good at. For example, pickpocketing, like she's sick at that, but she uses that to her benefit in other situations. For example, when she handcuffs him to the car, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's a good level of like you see the escalation through her of her being out of her depth. Where at the beginning she's just like, I'm just stealing this thing. And it's like, if you knew what that was, you wouldn't have stole it.
Yeah.
And then, like, she hears that, but she doesn't twig. She doesn't really, like, go, oh, shit, like, this is bigger. And then she gets arrested, and then she's, like, in the big car chase, and she's like, fuck, okay, right. You weren't lying.
The
Yeah.
scary lady's chasing me with a monster truck.
Actually, I think this might be where we differ a little bit. I think, because I forget her name, but she's the woman who plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy. She's probably the only character I don't like in this film.
Right.
I wouldn't even say it's a strong dislike, it just feels a bit out of place, and she doesn't actually have anything important to do anyway, apart from the thing right at the end.
The Deus
I feel like
Machina at the end.
Well, that, but also like to pass off the information to Ethan. The other thing is, I just feel like you could have him get that information some other way, and it wouldn't really be that important how he got it, because she didn't feel that important in this film. But again, when it could just be that she's a bit weaker, and it really stands out because everyone else is like really fucking good.
I see the point. I'm not on the same level of like, oh, like nah, didn't like her too much. I thought she was fine. You made a point the other day where she felt more like a John Wick character, and I totally get that. Totally get that.
For the record,
Um,
I did say that, but it was in a Jeremy Johns video, I think.
oh
And
right, oh, I see.
I'll give him credit for that. I didn't come up with that,
No,
but
no
he's
worries.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with that. Where she does seem a little bit too cartoony, or just too, I don't know, fictional.
A bit like Harley Quinn
A bit.
for me.
Well, yeah, that was definitely like the vibe they were going with. I thought her character was fine, and I get why. I kind of like. I know we're skipping, but we're not really going in order anyway. But I like the whole thing of what's his name, Gabriel. He's like he tries to kill her because he's like he spared your life, therefore you're going to give him you owe him like your life essentially. You're going to betray me and save him, and then she does that. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. It's like it was clearly just to set up, like you said, like to
Yep.
save them at the end and then give the information. It's like I don't mind this.
The one thing I did like about that moment, now that you brought it up, when he goes to hit her and he like hits above her head and spares her life, I think they did that in a way that was good. If that's what they were going for, is that was the moment for her character to change.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pick up on that at the time because you just think, oh, it's just him being angry, and it's more of a. You think in the moment that it's more of a character moment about him, right?
Yeah.
But then it actually turns out that it's also a character moment for her, which I quite liked because it wasn't just like you know when you have a shot, and I think I'll come up with an example at some point, but you have a shot where like they're telling you something, but they like linger on someone too long, and you're like, oh, you've brought importance to this character that I wasn't thinking about until you left the shot on them for a bit longer, or something like that. Like there's something to do with the way they film it
A
rather
quick
than what
example
they're
for
showing.
me is like might not be completely a great example, but when Palpatine's electrocuting Luke and it focuses on Vader the whole time, and it's like you see his reaction to what's going on, kind of thing. So it's like
Right.
it lingers on him. You're seeing his fault. I get what you're saying. Like they could have done a little bit more to show that she's changed a little bit, rather than just like, oh, he saved me.
I don't know if that's a complaint on my part though. I think it actually works a bit better if you don't have that moment for her, because then it comes as a bit more of a surprise
Yeah,
when she
keep up in
saves
the
him.
air, because yeah,
Because I think had you had the moment of like a close up on her face where she realizes, like she twigs and she goes, "Oh, he just spared my life," then I would be expecting her to come back and save them, right? That because of that shot.
yeah.
So I think it's probably the right choice they went for. I'm not saying that was the wrong choice, but I actually liked that moment of like, oh, like he just hits the wall and he runs off, and it's like you think nothing of it, and then they actually feed it back into something. I like that because usually when something like that happens, you're expecting it to happen because you've had the kind of prior little nudge that might be coming. But yeah, I think maybe I mean we've been pretty negative so far, so I might just keep the negative train going and be like that scene in the alleyway is probably my least favorite in the film by quite a big
I'd
margin.
agree that it was very poorly shot. I can understand why it's poorly shot, because but they put themselves in that situation, so it's like you only got yourself to blame, I suppose. It's like if you can't, it's a very tight place. So it's like you're not gonna get the camera shots you're needing unless you want to do like some raid type freaking camera style, which they just weren't going to commit to.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't great, which is a shame because they intercut it with the fight between, is it Elsa? Is that her name? Rebecca Ferguson's character and
Yep.
Gabriel, and I kind of liked their choreography. I thought it was pretty good, but and then you cut to them and it's like, oh, like that. It's just like not great. It's not, you can't even tell what's going on half the time, you know. Yeah, not great. I think we're both agreeing on that.
Yeah, I feel on that. I don't really have any major issues with any of the other fight scenes specifically.
Yeah, that's like the extent of my like negativity. I think like through the whole thing, like the first 20 minutes bit slow, and this fight scene wasn't great. That's the extent of my like negatives.
I think that's why I brought it up because I was like, we have been negative anyway, so we may as well bring it up and then go into the positive, I guess. So positives.
Positives.
I know for a fact that you loved a whole sequence towards the end of the film.
The train sequence.
Yes.
Yeah, from the moment they get on to the moment freaking Mr. Tom Cruise jumps off, I think that whole sequence was just great because the first half is a little bit more mental because you've got the Grace, try to do this deal, but she's going for her own psychology of being like, oh, I can set myself free right now. But as she's talking, she's kind of convincing herself out of it, which obviously is the right decision. But meanwhile, you got Tom Cruise and freaking Simon Pegg being like, oh, I missed the train. It's like, no. That's alright, I'll find you a different route. You need to just jump off this mountain and then freaking parachute into the train. He's like, do you understand how stupid that sounds?
I like that, because the thing is, this is obviously just an excuse for Tom Cruise to do some crazy bullshit, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I like that it's kind of in character for Simon Pegg's character to be like, I know if I get him up there, he's gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's gonna moan, but I know he's gonna do it. So it's not like it's not like it feels forced either, where you're like, oh, he could have just had a different route. He's like, no, he knows Ethan well enough to be like, he's a crazy motherfucker,
Yeah.
he'll do it anyway.
But also, like, Ethan's reaction when he gets up there, he's just like, am I really gonna do this? Like,
yeah,
like,
it's good, like, yeah.
Because, like, if you really deep it, you're jumping off a freaking massive cliff and trying to get onto a moving train. Like, that's so. I don't think I could even do it in GTA. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, mate, I could 100% do that in GTA. What are you on about?
like, never mind in real life. Like, what?
Yeah.
So. Oh, but speaking of which, I think we disagree a little bit here. I thought the stunt was insane. Because I think knowing that it's real makes me appreciate it more. Like, especially when watching it. Because I'm like, holy crap, man.
Right.
Like, that's crazy. Like, 61-year-old dude, massive Hollywood star, just freaking leaping off this massive mountain. Like, insane. I know you thought like there was some other stunts that were probably better and more impressive in the other
I will
films.
say, considering the quality of the other sequences in the film, I get why they focus so much on this one in the marketing, but honestly, this is probably after the hallway scene. I mean, it's not a fight scene either, right? So it doesn't make really sense to compare them. But I think probably my only other, it's not really an issue, but I'm just like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
like,
you weren't blown away.
I don't know,
by it.
like, I wasn't blown away by it, but I'd seen the behind the scenes of them actually filming it, and like Simon Pegg's like on the top of the the hill, and he's like, oh, there he goes, holy shit, Jesus Christ, and then they just go back to talking, and they're like, well, he could be dead, but we'll just keep talking.
Insane.
But I thing is, I really appreciate that they do it. One, I think you can tell it's real, but also they kind of slap stuff on as well, and I'm a bit like, I know why, because they need to fluff it up a bit, but at the same time, even if you add little things to something like that, I think it starts to take away.
A little bit.
The other thing is, I think it was, considering how they did the thing for real, I don't think they shot it in the best way they could have to get the best effect out of that.
I suppose you only got one shot though, eh? So it's like.
Well, no, because it cuts. It does cut.
I guess.
A few times. I feel like I would have rathered it didn't cut at all. That would be my criticism, is because I think I don't remember exactly if this is how it went down in the one with Henry Cavill. Is that Fallout?
Yeah.
Right. No, but the Halo jump they do in that one, that feels like real. That feels like obviously they fluff it up a bit as well, but that one feels like, I feel like that is done better than this. And it's hard to compare because I'm going off memory of that one, and I've only seen this one in the cinema once. That I got more of a reaction out of the Halo jump in the last film than this jump in this film, and I felt like, considering how good, like for example, I thought the car chase in Rome was like fantastic.
Yeah, we'll get
and I think there were some fantastic moments in that. But I felt, considering that those bits, and even the train bit as well, but considering the quality of those two sequences, I felt it was really strange that they focused so much of the marketing on this one stunt that lasts about 30 seconds. And I wasn't too bothered by it, to be honest. Like, fair enough, Tom Cruise wants to do some dumb shit and he wants to throw himself off a cliff. By all means, let him do it. I'm not going to complain. But, I don't know, I didn't really get that wow factor from it that I thought I was going to.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I got chills. I was like, because it was so quiet in my cinema, or it just got deathly silent, and they like mute the sound at that point as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because they kind of make you have that, they make you want to have that reaction.
Yeah.
They mute the sound and they make you want to just focus on that.
Mm.
But I never had that, like, that's what I wanted, but I never got it. And I think, just to follow on from that, probably the only other bit in the film I have a decent issue with is him getting onto the train.
Right.
Because when he crashes through the side of the train, I was really disappointed. Because I wanted to see when I saw the marketing for the motorbike jump, and then the skydive, and then the parachute. I'm not expecting like a one take for him to actually land on a train, but I would rather he landed on top of the train and then came in. I feel like it was just really strange choice to have him like blast through the side.
I guess it was just like comedic effect with the whole. Like,
yeah, it was, but I feel
like
like it didn't land comedy wise, and then I was also just like, oh right, okay. But in considering like how good the film was up to that point, it's still good after that point. But considering like they kind of show you the rules of like, oh, he's a guy still, like he's doing fantastic things, but he's still a guy. And then this one, they're like, oh, he blows a hole in the side of a train like 10 feet wide, and I'm like, what? Like fair enough, have him like dive through a window or something. Like that would be like mental and like totally unreal, but better. But it's the fact there's like a hole in the side of the thing. I'm like, he's not made of lead. Like he's not a fucking cannonball. Like it's strange. But I think I would have rather had the emphasis on him driving off the cliff, parachuting, but then have a similar shot of him actually parachuting onto a train and landing on the train. I would have much rather seen that than what we had. And I feel like that would have made the stunt, like, again, I think you can cut in between because they have important scenes in between, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it has to be a one take, but I feel like if I'd seen him land on the train and take the parachute off and then go in and save them, I'd have been like, yeah, that's the shit. But the way it was, I was a bit disappointed with the way he got on the train. But failing that, I don't have many. I think that's probably the two big issues I have with the film is what I'm gonna have to get her name up. I feel bad.
Well, Manus.
Yeah.
It's confusing long. It's like Pom something. Pom. I don't even want to try and pronounce the second name. I'm going to butcher it.
Clementif. Pom Clementif. Yeah. I thought one because she didn't really have much to do. Two, she doesn't speak at all. So like.
I thought her sort of facial expressions and stuff, especially during Venice, was pretty good. Like, she came across crazy, like in the car, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the thing is to me, I think you could have replaced her with like any old grunt in the car, and it wouldn't really have changed it all that much.
Yeah, I guess.
But I did like that, like they got out of the car, and I like that moment where they're in Rome.
Rome, that's it. Sorry, I'm calling it Venice. My bad.
They do go to Venice as well.
It was Rome though in that scene though.
In Rome, yeah. But yeah, when they all get out of the car and you've got like the American agents like trying to arrest Ethan, and Ethan's like, no, she's fucking mental, like get behind cover, and then they're like, no, get on the ground, and then she starts like open fucking fire.
Yeah.
I did like that bit. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. I also like the little bit where they're behind the car, and then I don't know the character's name. Bit Briggs, that's what he's called, the agent guy. He looks at Ethan, and he could shoot him, but then he's like, nah, I need to keep you alive, and then like goes for the girl and stuff. It was a nice little tension. Because obviously like his whole mission's to get Ethan. He gets him, and he's like, oh no, I need to deal with this other crazy freaking Nazi here. It's good stuff. I love the driving sequence in it. Robert's not here, so I'll just speak his thoughts. He had two major thoughts of this whole film, so I'll bring up those ones. One was he wasn't a big fan of the driving sequence.
This guy, he get right. Okay, we're deciding it now, right? The After Credits podcast is now a two-man affair.
Two-man. Coco, no
our
more.
Trio is officially down to two. Yeah.
Trio's down to two.
Coco is gone. Yeah, that is shocking.
Yeah, I can't remember his reasons, but I love the driving sequence. I know it's your favourite part of the film, so
that's my favourite part of the film.
So, I loved it, mate. I loved it. Again, it's not just a driving sequence because there's so many layers to it. Because you've got like the big truck behind them, you've got them in the car. Is it a police car? No, they moved into another car. I'm not talking about the Blue Beetle yet, or the Fiat, like just the normal car. But then they're handcuffed together, so they're having to like, drive really awkwardly and stuff like that, and swap sides and all that jazz. It was really smart. Obviously, the whole gag of like, oh, I found a new car, and it shows a sick freaking spot like James Bond car, and it's like, oh, you got a yellow Fiat. It's like so.
Yeah.
Honestly, when they got inside, I got the vibe of like Mike's new car from Monsters Inc. It's
Right.
just like it's got so many buttons and it just doesn't work properly. Oh, freaking so good.
But
So
again,
good.
I feel like they used it. So like we just recorded our episode 5 Secret Invasion, and one of my problems with that is I feel like they don't use the scrolls to their advantage in combat or in action sequences. But in this one, they literally, that's the point of the action sequence, right? Is that their small car can go places this big van can't.
Yeah.
And they use that to the fullest effect.
Yeah.
It's really well done. And I'm like, great.
But they also lean into its disadvantages with fucking Haley spinning it out constantly. I find that so funny because like my favorite car in GT is the Panto, and oh my god, it's the same result. You're just spinning out constantly. It was such a good funny little scene.
But that's what I mean. Like the cinema that I was in was actually packed. Like there wasn't a free seat in the cinema, which I haven't seen in a while for a film, to be honest. And it was mostly people older than me, and there was quite a lot of like older people as well, probably like, sorry if you're this age, but like 40, 50, 60 sort of thing. They were there as well. And that kind of comedy landed really well with the cinema I was in. Like I thought it was funny too, but just being in the cinema with like all those people and they're like chuckling away, it was good.
Yeah.
Like the bit with the car, like it was a funny bit and like everyone laughed and it was great and everyone was happy and lived happily ever after. But no, it was good. I really liked it, and I really liked I think they used the setting quite well as well. Obviously, it's not the first time there's been like a car chase in Rome or in like small side streets. Like the Bourne films have like Paris and stuff like that, where they do similar things, right?
I swear the recent Fast and Furious is set in there as well.
It is, yeah. I haven't seen that, but it is. But yeah, I really love the Rome sequence, and I love most of the Venice sequence as well, apart from that one hallway scene. But yeah, I find it really hard to fault that because the thing is, right, and in terms of going into this film, I was like, not the biggest fan of Mission Impossible. I'm just gonna go in and have a good time at the cinema because you saw it and told me how good you thought it was. So I was like, yeah, I'll go see it.
Yeah.
If you'd come and said, oh, it was mediocre, I might not have even seen the film. But when you have that sequence, and I was just like eating up everything they were putting down, and I was just like totally engaged the whole time. And it's quite a long sequence, the Rome thing, right? Because they have the whole sequence in the actual like embassy or in the police station.
Yeah.
And then they have the first car, and then they get a bit of respite, and then they have the new car, and then they have a whole different chase sequence in that, and then they have the agents and all that kind of stuff.
And then they go into the railway and
yeah.
do that.
And there's a lot going on, but you're going all around Rome. I do like that they go like full circle around Rome. They just end up back where they started as well. But I thought it was, considering like it is literally just two cars chasing each other for most of this.
Mm-hmm.
It was really engaging. I thought like there wasn't a moment where I was like, oh god, this is like a really long car chase. Because I think in terms of other car chases, this is quite a long car chase.
It is.
Right?
But I wasn't bored ever during it though, which is mad because I'm not a car guy either personally. So it's like, yeah, well done. I think it also helped because I was invested with like each of the sort of factions that's going on. Because obviously you got Ethan and Grace in the car. You've got all the police. You've got the Mantis actor with the chasing them like a freaking crazy woman. And then you got the other two lads who are involved. You're like, it's like there's so many things going on at the same time. I'm engaged with it all.
And also, I think just a point that maybe, because we'd said about the alleyway and it was a bit unclear what's going on, that's the total opposite for every other scene in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like you say, there's different people coming together from different places, and they're all working for different reasons. But you understand exactly who's working where and when, and you're never lost, really. And unless you're supposed to be lost, which sometimes happens, because obviously you've got like misdirects, but you're never unintentionally lost in the film. Where you're like, fuck, where's that? Like, that was a weird cut. Like, because we talked about Secret Invasion as well. There was a fight scene where I'm like, that was a weird cut.
Yeah.
But this is a long film, and there was never once where I was like, oh, that was a weird cut, or oh, that was a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
And just to bring up the runtime, actually, this film is like 165 minutes long, and it flew by.
Yeah. For me, as soon as it gets to the airport, flies in. Like, it doesn't stop. Yeah.
And tell you what, this film is the same length as Indiana Jones 5? I might check that.
In a
I'm sure it's about
film
2.5
sequel,
hours.
So,
And I'll tell you what, Indy 5 feels like longer than 2.5 hours, and this feels like a 1.5 hour film.
mad.
Like, I'll just double check. 2 hours and 22 minutes, so it's 3 minutes short. Oh no, it's about 12 minutes shorter than Mission Impossible, which is fucking dreadful. Because if Indy 5 is shorter than Mission Impossible, it feels double the length. Like, yeah. So that tuk tuk chase, if you like that, fair enough. But I'll get my gourmet shit in Mission Impossible because that tuk tuk chase compared. Well, the thing is, tuk tuk chase was fine in Indy, right? But compared to that Rome sequence, that is dog shit.
And it's a similar situation as well because they've got like the experienced main character, and you've got this new character who's kind of challenging the main character.
And you've got multiple people in the chase, right?
Yeah. So it's like there's a similar scene, but yeah, much prefer this one, 100%.
And I'd say in general, never once have I been bored in an Indiana Jones film, even if it was bad.
Yeah.
The new one bored me, and that's the biggest sin I think an Indiana Jones film can make. The thing is, I don't think that this Mission Impossible film ever feels like Indiana Jones, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But at least I was engaged in this film, and all I want, even if Indy 5 didn't feel like Indiana Jones film, I'd have been more okay with it if I was at least entertained for the majority of the runtime.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that film is just a slog, and it's not entertaining. I'm not engaged. And this is something, this is a property I actually don't care about. I really care about Indiana Jones. I don't really care about Mission Impossible, and I was fully engaged the whole time.
I've not even seen them, and I'm like into it. You know what I mean?
So, you know, I'm not saying like Tom Cruise is the way to go. Definitely not saying that. But like,
I mean, track record says so.
Yeah.
Like,
Top Gun Maverick. Basically no nostalgia for Top Gun. Top Gun Maverick's a banger of a film, and so is this.
yeah, like he's like the last 2 years he's smashed the summer films. You know what I mean? Like the summer blockbusters. He smashed it 2 years in a row.
Even John Wick 4, we didn't do a review of that film, but John Wick 4 feels like a much longer film than this as well. And I think it is a long film.
No, that is like 3 hours. Like, yeah.
But
Unnecessarily.
20 minutes.
Unnecessarily.
Exactly. You could probably cut. I feel like this film, you could cut stuff and make it a tighter film, but I don't think you need to. Because I think it runs at a really good pace. But I feel like John Wick, even though it is a longer film, could probably lose time and would be better if it was shorter than this film.
Every single John Wick's action sequence was drawn out unnecessarily. Doesn't mean I disliked it, because I actually do like the film, but it drag on sometimes. Whereas this film, it perfectly paced, I felt.
Yeah. So so we have the airport, and I think I actually really loved the airport as well. I loved I loved the riddles. That was a great.
Yeah.
Like the little box, that was amazing.
It gives Simon Pegg something to do as well. Nice little.
And I like it smart as well. It's like it knew that. I love the little thing where it's like, you are done.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, we're not. And I was, and then he's like, no, it's in my name. And I was like, oh shit, that's actually really interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Because that's the thing. That's a really great way to up the stakes of what this AI can do in the very first scene or sequence. Because you're like, oh, AI, and it's like, well, we don't actually know what the bounds of this are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that it's just predicted the actions of all your characters, despite them not being like simple actions to take.
Yeah.
And it's predicted them all down to a T. And you're like, oh fuck, like that's actually pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the film, you're like, well, is this what the AI wants them to do the whole film, or is this something different? Like, it obviously has this scenario played out in its quote unquote head, but is this the one it's picked, or is it unsure, or like
yeah.
I guess the whole point, like, I think in the film they kind of tend to say like the AI knows exactly what's going to happen, basically. Obviously,
it's calculated like every outcome. So it's got like a percentage scale of like, okay, it's got 10% of this happening, but it's prepared for all those outcomes.
It means that Gabriel is basically on. Well, I think the other thing is as well is I think it has these kind of like avenues it can take where it's like, oh, if X, Y, and Z is true, then you can push the characters to do this, and it'll make these outcomes more certain.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So I think like during the film, it's kind of whittling down the characters into like a probability, a singular probability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a cool idea for a spy film as well, to be like, oh, the whole time it's like predetermined, but it's not it doesn't take away from what you're seeing, knowing that the computer already knows they're doing it, which is really strange because I feel like that's quite a hard thing to pull off, and I think maybe the only reason they pull that off is because they don't bring it up all that often.
It's only every now and then. I thought it was done really well. With the airport scene as well, I like I don't know if I'm just making this up, but is the test that Benji takes? Is that how the AI knows how to talk as Benji in Venice?
I think that feeds into it. I think probably part of the test as well. I thought the test was going to be like, it's kind of testing their minds to better predict them in the future as well. And every time someone does something, it kind of catalogs that action and then puts it into the possible future actions they take based on those actions. But I felt like I also don't think it matters too much because it's kind of like, oh well, it's in every computer everywhere anyway. So that's a good scene to bring up, though. I actually forgot that happened in the film. But I really love that scene because that was so freaky as well. Because like, especially with like Alexas and stuff like that nowadays, listening to you and all that crap. Yeah, and then I like the bit when he's like talking, and then you get it from his point of view, and you're like, that sounds a bit robotic. And then it comes out to like Benji's side, and he's like, Ethan, that's not me talking. That was great. I thought that was amazing.
Just freaking break the laptops.
Yeah. I like that. That was funny. Yeah.
Just like there was no pause, just instant. It was so good.
Mate, that's gonna be a meme, and if it's not, I'm gonna make it a meme.
This leads into Robert's next criticism. I think you're going to be really surprised by this because this is so not Robert as well. When they kill Elsa, he didn't like that because he really liked her character and he didn't want her to die, which is so funny for Robert because he loves killing characters off. Like he strives for it.
Well,
but
there's an important thing there though, because we were just talking about this again with Secret Invasion with Talos. We like that character. And he died, and we didn't like that. Is it that where he likes the character and he's just butthurt that character's not in it anymore, or is he like, oh, that death didn't actually resonate with me?
I think, from what I remember him saying, it just didn't feel like a. Because again, I've not watched the other films, so I don't know how many she's even in. I assume she's a big character, right?
So I think Ethan Hunt does have a wife, but she's kind of like. Are they, aren't they, throughout the series with Ethan? Right. So, and this film kind of hints at that again, just before she dies.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think, again, I didn't realize Rebecca Ferguson was in the older films. I didn't remember that anyway.
So his point was like he thought her death should have been more impactful. But honestly, to me, again, this is just based on this film and the last one. I thought she was the perfect person to die because her dying then raises the stakes for Ethan because now the AI is essentially calculated this, being like, okay, now he's going to want to kill Gabriel, but if he does kill Gabriel, he'll never know where I am or what my objective is or whatever.
The other thing is, I think it's not just about her death as well, it's about because I think that sets up, like, they have a good mourning kind of period in the film as well. They have like a nice like moment afterwards. But it also feeds into Hayley Atwell's characters. What's her name?
Grace.
I call her Hayley Atwell. Grace. It feeds into Grace's arc really well as well because now she's like, the stakes are up because this woman died for her, and it's like, what's she going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because like her whole thing is like, Ethan's basically offered the choice. Well, not even offered, but kind of, well, offered, but also kind of forced upon. The whole situation's forced upon her basically because she made a mistake, but she now has the choice to join the Mission Impossible team.
Yeah, I actually really like the line with Luther where Grace says like, "Oh, she's dead because of me," and then he says, "No, you're alive because of her." Like, I like that. Yeah. It's just a nice little positive spin to it, you know. Yeah, I just really like that. I just wanted to point that out.
And I think without that scene. Without those scenes, I think I'm probably on Robert's side a little bit more, where I'm like, her death didn't really feel that powerful. Again, not that familiar with the character, but something that does make, well, there's two parts to like a death in a film, right? You have like the actual death itself and the reaction that gives you, and then you have the reaction of everyone else.
Yeah.
And the thing that this film did really fucking well, I thought, was the reaction that everyone else had to her death.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've been missing in some other films as well, and other
That's
TV
it.
shows.
Kind of reminds me of like the Black Widow death in Endgame a little bit, where it's like,
Right.
it's the character that of all the characters kind of works, like that's the one that makes the most sense to die. But then you get all the characters reacting to it, and you're like, oh, now even more like sad.
You know what?
You know.
You know what? There's a fancy word for this, and no one does it in films anymore. It's called the triage.
Oh.
It's where you
Explain.
collect yourself. You collect yourself after a battle. You regroup and you decide what the move is going forward after a win or a loss. Right?
Yeah.
You have a big conflict, and then you have a triage. And Secret Invasion, that's non-fucking existent, ever, and that bugs me. And I'm like, bro, triage. That's where it's at. And this film just illustrates that. It's great. But yeah, I thought Luther was really good in this film as well. I mean, to be honest, like we said, I don't have many complaints about anyone, but I really like, because everyone brings something new as well, right? Everyone brings something different.
Yeah.
To everyone else.
They all have their sort of quirk to them. You said ability wise, they all have different. They bring something new, but personality wise, I think they do as well. Because like Simon Pegg's Benji, he's like the sort of like he's the heart of the group. He's like the the loving one, but he's also the funny one. Luther's a very wise one. He tells you the truth. He even says to Ethan, he's like, "Look, I'm just gonna tell you now because like we've been friends for so long. Like, are you gonna kill Gabriel? Like he's gonna be straight with him.
I tell you, that's a great scene as well. I love that because one thing that I think that's a great way of like not having the audience hate your character as well, because if they're making that a main thing of like Ethan killing this guy means they lose.
Yeah.
And because he killed his love interest, but also like longtime friend as well, long-term mate, then it wasn't really in my head that if he kills Gabriel he loses, but I thought that was a really organic way to bring that concept up, was for Luther to be the dad in that moment sort of thing and be like, look, I know you and I know what just happened and I know what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so well done as well. I thought, because that's the one thing a lot of films I don't think would have the kind of courage to do that, because it's writing yourself into a corner a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where you'd rather show that moment of conflict in the character in the moment. You would rather have that moment of, is he going to kill her or isn't he? But to bring that up right at the fact just before they go into that moment, I thought that was great as well.
It sets the stakes. Up.
Yeah.
Because he essentially says like it's either you die or he dies, and either way the AI wins. So it's like that's it's really
that was some really good writing, I thought.
I'm going to bring up my favorite scene because I haven't talked about it yet, and I don't know. We've not really talked about this one, but I love scenes like this. And my favorite scene is when they're in Venice in this sort of party, I guess, and what's she called? The White Widow. I don't think she actually has a name, or at least it doesn't say here on IMDb. It just says the White Widow. Vanessa Kirby's character, the blonde character. She shows up, and she essentially invites them all up to her lounge. And oh my god, I love scenes like this because everyone's there for the same purpose, but they've all got their own reasons for being there. And they'll have their own objectives. They'll have their own allegiances to each other. They'll have reasons to want the key. It's like, I just love scenes like that because there's so many, like, I'm invested in each of these characters. Again, I'm not even a fan of the franchise, and I'm like already invested in each character in that room, whether it's Gabriel, Grace, Elsa, the Widow, Ethan, everyone, even freaking Zola, the bodyguard. I'm like invested in everyone here. And I don't know, just like tensions up, and they're like trying to convince each other, like, who should you give the key to? If you give the key to him, everyone dies. And she's like, well, if I don't, I die. And it's like, okay, right, so I see where you're going. I just love scenes like that where you've built up all these characters, they're all in the same room, and now how do they work? I love scenes like that. So I think that was my favourite scene, purely based on just like the back and forth between the characters and sort of tension. And then Gabriel was like, you got to choose, Ethan. Either kill Grace or kill Elsa, and it's like, oh damn.
I like that they committed to that as well. They were like, the algorithm knows that one of these women have to die, and again, it sets up the stakes really well.
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, well, because it could literally be either one. Because I in the cinema, I was thinking like this could quite easily be Grace as well. She could quite easily go.
Yeah.
But I think the obvious thing is sitting in the cinema. I was like, the obvious choice is neither of them die because Ethan overcomes the algorithm for some reason,
Yeah.
and that's what I was expecting. And then they're like, no, Rebecca Ferguson, she just eats shit and dies.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm a bit surprised Robert doesn't like that actually, because that seems like a really Robert moment to like, where they set up the stakes initially and go, one of these women have to die, and then one of them actually dies.
Yeah. I think it's simply because he just likes the character. But yeah, no, it was a bit weird. I was surprised when he told me. I was like, oh.
Fair enough.
I was like, oh. Literally, as the film finished, he was like, I have one negative. And I was like, oh god. I was like, okay. But yeah, no, love that scene. Sets up everything perfectly. I felt. I just like the vibe as well in the club, and then it's the whole reveal of like the club is the AI. Like the AI is all around us right now, which is good because it's clear as day, especially when you rewatch it. Like it's all over the walls, but when they say it, you're like, oh my god, so it is. It's like it's freaking listen to you right now.
I mean, my only thing against that is like, well, what does that even mean? It's in the room.
I guess it just means like I think because like right after they go to this place just made of stone, right, where it's like, oh, no one can hear us now. So it's like I think it was just to set give you an example of it, like always being around, I suppose, even without your gadgets or whatever. Like it's just like it's in the walls, kind of thing. I don't know. I thought it was a cool sort of reveal. Also, like I think this is the point where I started to like Gabriel as a villain as well. Because I know he's I'm sure he's in another film, but this was the first time I kind of thought like, all right, okay, he's like Ethan's like Joker essentially. He's the sort of arch nemesis. I think it did help with the flashbacks to I'm assuming him killing his wife or girlfriend or something at the time. I like that because obviously I've not seen them, so give me context. That's great. And then obviously they do that with Elsa. They kill her in a similar fashion. So that all works out, checks out for me. But yeah, I think that's my favourite scene, I think. But I just like characters still with each other, especially when it's like an intense situation. And like you've not seen all the characters in the same scene. And my favourite bit as well is when Ethan looks out and he sees the two freaking goons, and then they like run. It's so funny, man.
And then you get his tracking shot, his sprinting tracking shot as well.
He had a couple running shots this film. He had a good few. He had one on the airport roof. He had the one on. That was actually another funny one. Funny. Where he's like, where is he? He's just running past the window.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I didn't expect that level of comedy in the film. Yeah. I thought I'm pleased because I think it worked well, but I also think if you wanted to make the film a little darker, I reckon you could just take those things out and this film would still work perfectly well.
Yeah, it does. It works because it's as well as like it's a blockbuster summer film. You know what I mean? Like families are going to be watching this, so you might as well just ensure everyone's having a good time, and it's not taken away from the seriousness from it. They're not making stupid jokes in serious moments. You know,
looking at you, Marvel.
Yeah.
Flash.
Yeah, exactly. Star Wars as well do it now. Like, yeah, like they didn't do any of that. Like when it's a serious moment, they keep it serious. But yeah, no, all great. I don't know what else to bring up. Is there anything you're?
I'm surprised actually you haven't brought up because I thought when you said your favorite scene you were going to bring up the train car over the bridge.
Oh yeah, we forgot to bring that up. That wasn't my favorite, but I did like that. That was my favorite part of the train, just because I thought it was quite creative. Obviously, not like the train hanging off because that happens all the time, but just the interior of it all. So, for example, they go for the kitchen first, and there's like freaking boiling oil splashing all the place. You know, there's dishes flying over, and then they go into like the piano room and stuff. Like I just liked all that sort of stuff. It was pretty good. And then obviously the camera angles where it goes vertical, and it's like, oh my god, like my mind's like tripping a little bit because like I don't know, like that must have been a real set. I think. Oh well, must have been where they're doing like a Spider-Man where they're just like crawling on the ground, but it looks like the wall kind of thing. I liked all that. I thought it was actually. I thought the tension was really high when they were climbing past the piano, like after that fell. Because I'm like, how are they gonna get that? Because like she's slipping, he's barely hanging on, and I've completely forgot about Buddy Mantis' character. So I'm like, how are they getting out of this one? I'm like genuinely like, does Haley die here? Like,
They do just do a hard cut and then they're safe, right?
that was funny though. I did laugh at that because I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
because I was like, how are they gonna show this? It's so awkward, and then they just cut. And I'm like, oh, okay,
They
no.
just don't. Yeah. No, I thought. I think probably. I liked the segmented kind of part of the train car. How it was like you would work your way through one train car and then it was gone, and
Yeah.
then you'd work your way through the next one and then
It
it was
felt like
gone.
a video
I like
game
that
a
kind
little
of.
bit, where it's like, okay, next section, next section.
Yeah, I like that kind of section of it. But I think I did prefer the first half of the train sequence when it was like the kind of more espionage, like she's trying to like fool the guy into thinking she's the White Widow. I think I preferred that bit, but yeah, I don't know. Gabriel's a little bit of a tough one, I think, because I liked him, but I'm not sure why.
I think the scene. There's a couple of scenes that I liked. One of them was when they were in the Venice, like I don't know what building you'd call it, but Haley's like going to the library to see Tom Cruise, and then he enters a sort of, again, I don't know what to call him. He goes into the office and he's like, "Oh, so I'll go like hang Amelia or something by the neck or something." He's like, "How do you know her?" He's like, "I know everything." It's like that sort of stuff that really gets me. Like, oh, when the villain just knows everything, but he's obviously got the power of AI to can help him, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff I like. And then he obviously.
One thing
Oh, go on. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say one thing I thought was so there's a scene on the train where he gets out of like a kind of it looks like a like an animus or something, right?
Oh,
And it's
yes.
obviously I guess it's him like communicating with the AI to get like the outcomes in the near future. That was my interpretation, is that he's in this thing for a while and then he comes out and he knows basically what's going to happen in the future for say like the next day or the next few hours.
Right.
Something like that, and then he'll go back in the next day, and that's how he knows, is that he's constantly being like in and out of this machine communicating with the algorithm, and it's like, oh, he's somehow being given this information that like, oh, this is what Ethan's going to do, this is where you need to be, sort of thing. But I thought that was going to come into play. I thought it was going to be a thing of Ethan would get into that machine and like he would then communicate with the AI or something like that, or a character would do that.
Maybe next film, mate. Maybe next film.
I hopefully, but I mean, I guess that one's destroyed in the train, right? But like when he came out of that machine, I was like, oh, like I was kind of watching it then. I was like, oh, that's gonna come up again, but never did. But it's more an observation.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say? Big, small?
This is a big one because we kind of mentioned at the very start is that part one movies have been really annoying me in the last couple of years. And I'm talking about Dune, I'm talking about Spider-Verse, those type, because for me, I'm not aware that it's a part one of a movie. Because in my opinion, there's a difference between a part one and a first movie in a trilogy. Because if you're part one, that kind of gives me the impression it's half a film. This doesn't feel like half a film. This kind of feels like it feels like a full film. There's a start, beginning, and end. Whereas Spider-Verse doesn't, for Dune doesn't for me. It ends very anticlimactically, and there's a difference between a cliffhanger and anticlimactic, in my opinion. Cliffhanger means that you're excited to see the next one, or it's like, well, no, they're kind of similar. I take that back, but this film doesn't end on a cliffhanger per se, because you've got the goal, you've got the keys. That's what this whole film has been about. Not the super weapon yet. They set up the super weapon, but that's not this movie's goal. It's the keys right now. The next movie will be the super weapon, the submarine.
That's a good point. I think that's a good point, and I think that's a really smart way to do it. Is that they have basically two doohickeys,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Where this whole film is basically about the first one. Obviously, the next one's going to be about, like you say, the submarine.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this film, I don't know if I would say it's a completely, like I don't have an issue with it anywhere near close to what I have with Spider-Verse, or like you say, Dune was a bit strange for me. I don't know. I'm not sold either way on that one.
Yeah.
But I know the point you make. but I don't think that one falls strictly into either category. I do think that it's a bit of both, where like I feel like there probably might have been a more satisfying ending to this, but again, the ending was satisfying enough for me to still enjoy it and not have a detrimental effect on the rest of the film.
Because like they beat the villain, they got the keys, and Grace is with the MI now. So it's like.
But do you think this could have operated as a Mission Impossible film without the part one? Even if it was the same story, even if it was exactly the same and they just didn't label it part one, would you think this was a satisfying enough film? Because obviously it sets up the next one, and I don't remember the other films kind of doing that as much, right? They're more
that's what I mean. Like
contained.
I like the part one because it lets me know ahead of time that okay, this isn't going to be complete. Whereas Spider-Verse and Dune, they didn't have part one in their title.
Right.
Like in all material for Dune, for example, they always said they were going to do 2 films. But I expected this film to be a full film like the one they gave me, but then they finished it on like this anticlimactic fight. And then at the end it says Dune 2 next year or whatever. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I didn't know it was a part 2, whatever.
I think the difference as well is with this one you do have a good escalation where you have the kind of 3-act structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're also going to have the structure of the part 1 and part 2 together, sandwiched. But I think that's probably where Spider-Verse fell down at the end, was it was like, as soon as you got to a point and you realized, oh, that was the final fight, and then you went, oh, they're just setting up the next one now.
Yeah.
This one feels really organic in terms of like, it's a 3-act structure, and by the end, you're at a satisfying conclusion, but you're also well set up for the next film.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, I think, fails in the 3rd act a little bit, and then just foregoes that 3rd act just in order to set up the next film. And the end was hype for me for Spider-Verse, but it did come at the expense of a good 3rd act in that film, I felt.
Yeah, it was. The thing is, I love that film, Spider-Verse. It was literally just the end of me being like, "Oh, you're joking." I thought I was getting like the full thing, and then right after, like the guys are saying, "Oh, don't worry though, it comes out next year." Well, it got delayed, so rip. It's not next year anymore. It's gonna be like a year after or something. So, it's a lot longer than
Which I think was done on purpose, but I'm not. I'm a conspiracy theorist a bit, but not fully. Not in a legitimate sense. But I do think that was absolutely planned. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like that's absolutely planned to be like, oh, we'll get you in the door, and so that you're aware there's another one coming out, so that when we end it unsatisfactory, like in an unsatisfying way, then you can just go, oh well, it's only 8 months away, it's only 10 months away, like it's fine. And then after that period of you going, oh, it's only 10 months away, they can then soften the blow instead of just going, oh yeah, by the way, we're delaying it before the film comes out.
Yeah. Because like, imagine if Infinity War ended and you had to wait 3 years or something for a bloody Endgame. That'd been hell, man. That'd been hell. Like, I'm wanting that Endgame ace.
You have just described Empire.
Cause I don't know when the next Mission Impossible film's gonna be coming out though. But like I said,
Next year.
I don't feel blue balled though.
No, yeah.
You know? Like I feel
It
like
comes out in June next year.
June next year, mate. Perfect.
So that's what I mean. If they're making 2 Mission Impossible films back to back, and this one's class, and we've waited 15 years for Indiana Jones, and they couldn't even make one of those films good, and they can make 2 of these good.
Crazy.
I'll tell you what, James Mangold, you fucked it.
Anyway,
You
any other things you want to bring up, or just ending thoughts? What are you thinking?
Ending thoughts. Typically, I would, if you asked me on the street and you were like, for some reason, and you were like, what kind of films do you like and what films do you not like? Probably the first genre I would go to that I'm like, I've watched the least of, and what I have watched I haven't enjoyed that much, is probably like spy stuff. Which is weird because I probably like, because like Secret Invasion, I like the ideas in that, but I don't like what's on the screen. This one is like, I don't know, like if you said what's the films you're excited for this year, Mission Impossible wouldn't even probably be on my top 10.
Same. Indiana Jones was number 1 for me this year. And it came bottom.
Well, before the trailer, yeah. But after the trailer, maybe went down a few. But
whereas this film's probably top 3 for me this year so far, so that's kind of mad.
I think we talked. I think this is my. I think the only film I've preferred this year is Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I liked Spider-Verse as well, but I didn't think that was as good as the first one. But I do think probably this is the second best film I've seen. I mean, it's hard to say best, but I had a good. I probably had the second best experience I had in the cinema this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we saw like Whale and stuff this year, So.
I thought the Whale was a bit overrated, to be honest, but yeah,
Okay.
I think apart from Brendan Fraser's performance, that film was just okay.
I suppose the film is his performance, though. No, that is the film.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I mean,
you're leaning on like a 8 or 9 here. You're saying.
Yeah, and I think the good thing about this 8 or 9 is that I know I can recommend this 8 or 9 to almost anyone.
Yeah.
Is that if I'm watching Guardians of the Galaxy, I know I can only recommend that to people who already like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, you need
or
to invest
Marvel.
Whereas I've proven with this one, you don't need to be invested with these characters.
But
like, I'm not.
This one, I would say is very accessible as well, and I would say even up to older age groups as well, because like I was sitting in the cinema, and this isn't me knocking old folk, right? But I was sitting in the cinema at Indiana Jones, and I fucking hated. Like, I didn't hate that film. I disliked it. I've grown to hate it, but I disliked it at the time, and I was just disappointed more than hating it. I haven't grown to hate it. I'm done with it. But in that film, I felt like the only person who wasn't as old as Harrison Ford. There was a lot of white hair in that cinema, and they ate that film up. To be fair, right? I think your gran could probably watch Indiana Jones and find it was funny, but I didn't. And I feel like if I was going to say to my gran, I was going to be like, right, you and me, we're going to the cinema, and I was going to pick between Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible. I wouldn't subject my gran to that shit that Harrison Ford. No, I thought Harrison was good, but that shit, and I feel like this is just the better Indiana Jones 5 in every way.
Yeah.
But Indiana Jones and this film should not be comparable in any way. But the fact they are just shows how generic and flat Indiana Jones was. That you can compare it to a spy action film where, like, really realistically, if you're making an authentic Indiana Jones film, you shouldn't really be able to compare it to, like, try and compare this film to Raiders.
Yeah, you can.
It's a bit hard, right? Like, you can obviously make comparisons and stuff like that, but it kind of breaks down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can compare this film quite well to Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's because it was very generic and it didn't feel like Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, honestly, if you're considering going to see Indiana Jones, don't bother. Go see this instead.
Actually, I'm going to check the box office first.
I think, honestly, I'd be happy showing this to, like, anyone older than, I don't know, anyone who enjoys spy films, anyone who remotely enjoys action films.
Mate,
it's just
Indiana
a
Jones
really good
has
action
been
film.
out for almost a month now, and it's only made 300 million.
That's more than it fucking deserves, I'll tell you that.
That's mad.
Honestly,
that's less than Black Adam.
I never ever wanted Disney to fail. I really loved Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but that film deserves to fucking fail, and I'm glad it has, because I don't want any more of that shit being pumped out of Disney. And if this is the message it takes, if Indiana Jones has to die a slow, painful death in 2023, just to save something else in the future, then thank you for your sacrifice. But I wish you'd been someone, man. Like, but this film, yeah. Honestly, I'd struggle not to recommend this to anyone. If you just wanted to stick it on, like, it's really good, really really good.
Just fun action as well. And you don't even need to get deep with the story. Like, the action's good enough as well. Like you said, like, some people's dads are just there to, like, watch some fun action scenes, and that they've got plenty of that in this film. That kind of appeases everyone, in my opinion. Yeah, box office wise, it's only been out a week, and it's already passed. Well, it's about to pass, indeed.
Good.
So
I'm glad.
that's good. It's only been out for one weekend, so
turns out
at the end of this weekend,
let's hope that means the populace, they have spoken.
Yeah.
We have spoken.
Do you think it'll do Top Gun numbers, or do you think Top Gun was
Honestly, I'm surprised Top Gun did as well as it did, but I'm glad it did as well as it did.
Yeah.
This, I don't know. I probably go in before I'd seen anything about it. I probably have said yes, because I think the Mission Impossible films have been kind of doing better with each iteration. But I don't know. It's like, what's the forecast? Is that kind of on track for that, or?
I don't think so. It depends on how good word of mouth kind of, because that's what Top Gun had.
Yeah,
Just word of mouth.
I agree.
It stayed in cinemas for ages.
If you're going by word of mouth from me and Brandon, read my lips. Go see this fucking film.
Yeah, do it.
Do it. Show Indiana Jones how the fuck it's done. Like, I could quite easily see this being in the top 5 films of this year for me.
Yeah, well, we had a look at the rest of the films this year, and there's not too much
And
standing
there's
out. So
fuck all.
yeah.
Unless Haunted Mansion is an absolute banger,
Mm-hmm.
or the unnamed Disney film or whatever. Yeah, but no, really pleasantly surprised, considering I don't have any like prior feelings on this franchise.
Yeah, man, I'm absolutely the same. Like, I wasn't even planning on watching it, and then I finished work early, and I was like, you know what? Might as well just go to the cinema and watch something. Oh, Mission Impossible's on. I'll go watch that. I was a bit tired for the first 20 minutes, and then freaking hooked
Yeah.
instantly after that, and then until the end of the film.
And if you're still listening, Leslie, go watch Mission Impossible, man. Yeah, I know you'll like it,
take
Leslie.
Jay.
Yeah, take Jay. Even Jay would like this film.
Show me a good film.
Yeah. Or leave him Indiana Jones and you go see Mission Impossible. You can have a good time. He'll have a hell of a time. Yeah, no. Well, I hope you liked the film, Leslie. I hope you liked the podcast, Leslie. And if you're not Leslie, I hope you enjoyed the film, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Last points? Or are we...
Next time, Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's that next.
Honestly, a Barbie episode might be you and Robert, mate.
Or just me.
Or just you, yeah. I'll go see. I'm really, really excited for Oppenheimer. And as of us recording, Oppenheimer's premiere starts in 6 minutes, which is really fucking dire because I wanted tickets for that. But alas, we'll go see it. I'm gonna go see it probably. I'm definitely gonna go see it IMAX because every single Nolan film I've ever seen, I've went shit. I should have seen that in IMAX. But so yeah, rounding off points. Very good film, solid 8.5 at least. Could probably convince me to be like a 9 just for what it is.
Best movie of the summer? Question mark.
By default, yes.
Because Guardians was a little bit before the summer, so I'm not counting that.
I'm probably going to say it's second because I'm expecting Oppenheimer to be a masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
But also
That's
Oppenheimer is right up my alley
that
as
could
well.
Be number 1.
Yeah.
That could be number 1.
Well, the thing is as well, this could probably be one of my favorite Nolan films if it's really good because this is like right up my alley as well.
Yeah, this is like up your alley. It's
Yeah.
not quite up mine, but I like this situation where I don't know too much about the event, so I'm happy to learn. That's what I liked about the freaking Air Jordan film. Like, I had no idea what that film was about, and then I just enjoyed the film. I was like, that was informative.
Well,
probably.
if you haven't seen that yet, this is a little tack on as well. That's probably my third favourite film of the year so far.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Air Jordan. Air is a good film.
Either that or
again,
Spider-Verse.
that's such a random. We were just like, oh, what's on?
Mate, I was gonna go see Superman in the cinema, the one from the 70s, and I was like, I'll go see Superman.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I cancel my ticket and go see Air, please? And I was like, I better not regret this, Brandon. And it was actually good, so yeah, go see Air as well.
Matt Damon might be your guy this year, man. He's possibly your top 5, 2 of the top 5.
Yeah, so
crazy. But yes, anyway, good film.
Banging film. Go see it. Go take your mum. Go take your dad. Go take your grandparents. Whoever is, they'll enjoy it. And if they don't enjoy it, it says more about them than the film, I reckon.
I think so.
So, yeah, good film. Go see it. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nah.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'll hold the peace.
Hold the peace. Right. Hold the peace, and we'll cut it there. Thank you for listening, and like and subscribe, and